points here, 2 points, this y and this y are the same. So let's make this y the same as this y. Because we know that at the points where they meet, at those specific points, this y coordinate is the same as this y coordinate. We can see that they have the same y coordinate. In other words, x squared equals 3x plus 18. X squared equals 3x plus 18. That y equals that y. Another way of looking at what I just did is I've gone, here's this y, which equals x squared, and I'm just going to say that that is exactly the same as that y, so I'm going to put that in this position, because I know that those y's are exactly the same at the points of intersection. Now, when we look at this, we have a quadratic. And when we have a quadratic and we want to solve it, we take everything to one side and we make sure that the side that we take everything to is going to give us a positive x squared. So I'm going to take 3x over here and 18 over here to the other side. We're going to end up with x squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. Now we have a quadratic. Now, we know that when we have a quadratic and we're solving it, we are finding the values of x that make this left side equal 0. But what does that actually mean in the context of this question? What it means is we're finding the x coordinates of the points of intersection, because we subbed in where the y coordinates are the same, therefore the x coordinates are also the same. So what you're doing by solving this is you are finding this point and this point on the graph. We're finding what x coordinate do they have. Because we know these 2 points have coordinates, we're going to try and fill them in. Right now, we're finding the x and that x. Okay, that's what we're doing for that point and that point. Okay, and you can do these questions without a graph. I'm just trying to illustrate what we're actually doing if you were to graph these 2 equations. So to trace back over quickly what we've done, we got the 2 equations, we solved them simultaneously. Remember, this was equation number 1, this was equation number 2, and we put 1 into 2, and we said, or we just made the y's exactly the same, however you want to look at it. Then we've said x squared equals 3x plus 18, taken everything to one side, and now we're going to factorize and solve it. You don't have to factorize and solve it, you could solve it straight away. How do you do that? Well, your next step could be to simply use the quadratic formula and sub all the values in to the formula to find the answer for x. Again, this is only because you've made everything equal 0. That's very important. But we know another quick way to do it as well, don't we? Because we have a trinomial, that's when you have x squared, an x, and a number. When you have all 3 things, all 3 components, then we can do the PSF method. So I'm going to do that for you. Even though we could do the quadratic formula, the PSF method is going to be pretty quick and easy, if it works. If the PSF doesn't work, then you can go and use the quadratic formula anyway. So it's a backup method, and it's basically a guarantee to find the answers if there are answers. And here there are going to be some answers because we can see there are 2 points of intersection. So PSF, what's our P? Well, the P, when we have a quadratic set like this, is the number at the end, including the sign. So that's minus 18. Our S is going to be minus 3. It's the number, including the sign, before the x term. Now I ask myself, what 2 numbers multiply to minus 18 and add or subtract to minus 3? And you always start doing PSF by looking at the P first. So let's ignore the S. What 2 numbers multiply to minus 18? Well, I have 6 and minus 3. 6 times minus 3 equals that. And 6 minus 3 equals 3. That's not negative 3, so that doesn't work. Now I'm going to try the other combination with 6 and 3. Negative 6 times positive 3 is also negative 18, but negative 6 plus 3 equals minus 3, and that's correct. So our 2 numbers are minus 6 and plus 3. Make sure you get the signs right. The negative has to be on the 6, and the plus has to be on the 3 for them to add to minus 3. We don't want the other combination where you only get positive 3. Okay, so make sure you try both combinations. Now that we got those 2 factors, I can rewrite this quadratic. I'm going to rub this out now. So I'll show you what that goes into. So we figured out up here that the PSF, the two numbers were -6 and +3. So I'm going to rewrite this as x -6, x +3. The reason I've put these straight into our brackets with x's is because it is a monic quadratic. That means that there's a 1 before that x squared, which means whatever your factors are when you do PSF, you can put straight into the brackets next to the x value. You just put x and x there, and then you put those, you simply fill these in there, and you just have x and x there because we know that it was going to be 1x squared, and x times x is x squared. So you can always pop them straight in. And then how do I make each bracket equal 0 to make the whole left side equal 0? Well, we can make x -6 equals 0, which will give us x equals 6. Or we could have that bracket equal 0, which is x plus 3 equals 0. And then we take 3 to the other side. We get x equals -3. Okay, great. What have we just found? We've just found that 6, obviously 6 is talking about this point, is this coordinate. Both of these equations will hit each other at x equals 6. And also they'll hit each other at x equals -3. So that point's -3. So you know -3 and 6 are the x coordinates. Let's find the y coordinates because we want the point, not just the x value. So underneath I'm just going to simply write y equals and y equals. And remember that we can sub, because they're points of intersections and they're the exact same coordinates, I could sub these x values into either of these equations. It wouldn't matter because they have the same coordinate at those points. So x equals 6, y equals 6 squared, which is 36. And x equals -3, y equals -3 squared, which is 9. Remember the -3 is going in there as well. It's being squared, so it's a +9 at the end. Okay, so we know that y equals 9 when x equals -3. So in other words, this value here is 9. And we know that when x equals 6, y equals 36. So up there, we made it 36. And that's how you find the points of intersection between a parabola and a line. Thanks, guys.